Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started here. And thank you guys for joining us. My name is Karen Balbier, and I'm one of the instructional technology specialists here in the Digital and Learning Resources Department. I do have a couple people on my team that are joining us. You'll find Julie Rivas, Chris Sherman, and Sharita Martin here in our session. They're going to be manning the chat, and we have one teacher. Yay! Thank you for joining us. And I'm going to share Chromebook 101. And no worries if you feel like this is a session that you want to share with other teachers. We are recording this session. And so this is going to be an overview of the Chromebook. And I'm going to share a little bit about the Chromebook that was rolled out last year for 3rd grade and 8th grade, which means those students are now 4th graders and 9th graders. And I'll share a little bit about the Chromebook that is being deployed this school year, which I believe is 3rd grade, 6th grade, and 8th grade. Don't quote me on that. I know for sure 3rd and 8th grade. I do have a QR code linked here, and that's for the view version of this presentation. It is a work in progress, so sometimes I'm adding additional items to it. But I just want you to know that you can get to it if you're interested. And then also we have a Schoology course with the Chromebook 101. And so when Jesus hops in, I'll ask him to add that resource also to our chat. Okay, with that getting started, welcome to Chromebook overview and our Chromebook 101. So I just want to share with you, typically when we are a part of co-teaching lessons in the classroom, we feel it's really important that when you're beginning to work with your students that you're talking a little bit about agreements. I've added agreements to this presentation and I will not read them to you all, but there's some of the basic things that we want students to remember when they're using their device, like make sure that they have clean hands, make sure they're talking with you about installing applications, that they stay on task and they're not using food and drinking drinks around their device, those kind of things. These rules or agreements that I have here that are being displayed were designed for our 3rd grade students. And so, of course, I understand that you would modify them for 9th graders, but some of the basic concepts could help just communicate some of the expectations that you have for these devices and your students if you're wanting to share those things. So some of the cool things about the new student Chromebook is they actually have 4 device modes. And so the modes of use would be laptop mode, stand mode, tent mode, and tablet mode. And I'll take myself out of sharing mode real quick to show you what I mean. I have the student Chromebook that students were issued last school year. So they have a cover on it. And of course, we advocate for students to always leave the cover on the device, right? And this laptop, now this Chromebook, just like we would traditionally use with our MacBook, can be used in a laptop mode, right? There is something called tent mode. And so being very careful with the device, but tent mode allows students to be able to record. You're going to see there is an option to use a camera on this side, but to be able to set up their device and see what they're recording, if it's a science lab or even an action shot here. So tent mode is pretty neat that way. We have, I'll have to look at my cheat sheet, but there is a mode that can be used this way for students as well. Not my favorite mode. And then there is tablet mode. So the neat thing about tablet mode is just knowing that your Chromebook is touchscreen. And so students can definitely take advantage of that. So if we're transitioning from 2nd grade to 3rd grade, that's a nice little feature to be able to know that you can touch, draw, and write with your Chromebook. Okay. So stand mode was the one that I wasn't sure about. So 4 modes of use. I think it's really important that you're talking with students about the mode that you're okay with in the classroom. There'll be times for sure that laptop mode is going to be the most productive mode, and there'll be times where tablet mode might be more of an expectation. There's 2 versions of Chromebooks. One is the Lenovo, and that's the version from last school year that was distributed to students. So basically what you need to know, this is just a version of the laptop laying flat. There are 2 sets of cameras. There is a camera privacy screen, and there are 2 microphones on the Lenovo Chromebook. And on the bottom, you're going to notice it has a trackpad just like our MacBooks do, and they work much the same. On the side, you're going to notice there's a left and right side, obviously, but one side of the student Chromebook comes with an USB. One comes with a place for you to put your headset. and another to charge the device with a USB-C. On the other side, you're going to find that there is an on-off button. So on our MacBooks, we're used to pressing a key on the keyboard. For the Chromebook, it's actually on the side. And there are volume buttons as well, an HDMI connection, and another USB connection as well. And then we have the new Chromebook that's rolling out this year. And so that's going to be going to what I believe to be 3rd, 6th, and 8th grade students. You're going to notice that the front of the Chromebook is very similar. It has the camera, it has the microphone, it has a camera like status symbol that's going to tell you a little bit about whether the camera, there's a light on, is in use or not. It is also a touch screen device. If you're looking at the keyboard, you're going to notice there's also that world-facing camera, so that second camera. It's just not in the very center like the other one, but it does the same thing. You're going to notice that you have a keyboard and a trackpad, or Dell calls it their touchpad, but it has a touchpad for navigating the device as well. On the side, they also have a power button on this new Chromebook on the side as well, the place to charge it, a HDMI connector, and a place to put your headset for listening to audio. And then there are volume buttons on the other side and a USB port as well. As far as the lock slot, that's not something that we're using in our district, but that would be to lock it down to a table if needed. Okay, are there any questions so far? Okay.
Karen, can we just say that last year's Lenovo's, the power button was on the right-hand side, and this year the Dell's, the power button is on the left-hand side. So if you do go looking for that power button like I did the other day and you think you're pushing it, you are probably pushing the wrong one on the Dell. It is now on the left-hand side, so you'll have to look for the power button.
It doesn't turn on, look on the other side. Yeah, definitely you want to look on both sides, right? Just to make sure. Thanks for sharing that, Julie. Okay, so when you open up your Chromebook, one thing that I was pleasantly surprised, I don't want to say that, but one thing that's the same is definitely the look and feel of the Chromebook when you open it up. Some of the vocabulary is a little bit different. We're used to our MacBooks, so I'll do a little bit of comparison. But here on the left-hand side, you're going to see a circle for the Chromebook, and that's going to help you access what we call the launcher. Of course, on our Macs, we would use the launch pad, right? So quite similar, but it's going to be a circle button for your students. Along the bottom of our Mac, we call it the dock, but here in a Chromebook, we call it the shelf. And so we have the shelf where we can pin certain applications that we're going to be using. You're going to notice the sign out button is here. And then we also have something called a system tray. And the system tray is going to help us access kind of like the control panel on their Mac. Our Mac is going to allow us to access things like Wi-Fi, sound, brightness, accessibilities, and so forth. Okay. Also want to share some other important things about your Chromebook. And I know on our MacBook, we're used to using our touch gestures, or some of us are. Students really like touch gestures. And so some of the same features that work on your MacBook will also work for your students on their Chromebook. So they could, of course, tap 1 time to select, 2 for a right click. They can zoom in, pinch out, scroll, 3 fingers to view their task menu, or 3 fingers to show current windows. And so those are things that students will probably figure out, but a lot of the same gestures that we're using our MacBook are also going to work in laptop mode on the student device. They also have touchscreen gestures. I do not have all of these down to a T, but basically while they're touching their device, a lot of the things are the same. Tap 1 time with their finger, hold down if they want to right click. They can scroll with their finger, drag and drop, and so forth. So they do have touch features as well. Okay. All right. I'm going to go back to some of the vocabulary that we talked about. And I shared with you that the circle is the launcher on the Chromebook. And so when we click on the launcher, I kind of circled some key things that I wanted you to know are probably in there for your students. And so I did notice Class Link was already available. When you click on this inside of the launcher, it's just going to open up Chrome and take them to Class Link. There's Clevershare if you're on a Mimeo campus and you do want your students to be able to share or present, right? Of course, students have access to Chrome from the launcher. Other things that are going to be important to note is that students might want to have that filing system and be able to access that quickly. And files would be like documents or like your Finder in a sense on your Mac. So files would be located in the launcher as well. They do have access to a camera. They have access to a drawing tool. They have access to, and I really like this one, keyboard shortcuts. And so if they're asking you what a keyboard shortcut is for anything in particular, if they click on that icon, they're going to learn a lot of keyboard shortcuts for their own device. And of course, students also have access to screencast. So if you're looking for an application that is currently installed on the Chromebook, you're going to want to make sure that you look for the launcher, and that will allow you to navigate through the device, much like our MacBooks. Okay.
Somebody, because you said unmute, Karen, but remember they can't unmute. So right now they're asking the questions on the actual chat.
All right. Well, Jesus, would you serve as my unmuter to let me know? Because I'm in full screen view so that I don't have to navigate in and out.
We will definitely ask you the questions when they post them in the chat.
Awesome. So just feel free to post questions. You don't have to wait for me to prompt or ask. Okay. I'm going to talk about the Chromebook shelf while I'm waiting on questions. And so within the shelf, so we talked about the launcher here. Inside of the shelf, much like your MacBook, students can pin items to the shelf that they're using on a constant basis. So it will remember the applications they've used throughout, I would say, recently, just like our Mac does. But if students are wanting to save specific items, like I think Chrome automatically is there, but if they're using their camera all the time, they can do the secondary click, I'll call it, like the right click, and then just choose pin to shelf. And if they pin to shelf, it will stay right down here on the bottom for their convenience. And so that's something that students can customize, and they can also unpin items here from the shelf as well. Okay, I already went over how to pin, so I'm gonna move back over. So we also have the system tray. The system tray is something that I do think is really important to help students just, navigate between Wi-Fi, like I said, sound, brightness, if they want to maybe use their screencasting, or if they want to take a screen capture, all of that is in here. So this little icon right here is your system tray. You're gonna notice your Wi-Fi connection is in here. Their Bluetooth, if they're wanting to connect anything Bluetooth, is here. Screen capture, a lot of teachers like students to take a screen capture of possibly some work and upload that into Schoology. So screen capture is still an option here as well. You're going to notice volume buttons. And then this, which looks like to me a gear, it's actually the brightness. And so this slider will allow you to dim and brighten your device. There's also a settings button here, and hopefully we'll get into that in a bit, but a settings button that you can use to navigate as well. And then you have the sign out button. Sign out, this is one thing we're going to advocate a lot for our students this school year, is if students are leaving to go to the bathroom, leaving to sharpen their pencil, or leaving their desk in general, they should hit the sign out button to make sure that they leave themselves safe and secure. And then sign back in after you come back. And that's just going to ensure that students aren't I don't want to say accidentally, but other students aren't going in and maybe doing anything they shouldn't be on someone else's computer. You don't want to leave yourself vulnerable. So here we also have the power shutdown button, and if there are updates as well. And conveniently in red is another sign out button if needed. One thing that a lot of teachers want to know and they're interested about is testing. So what are my students going to do when it comes time for testing? There's no self-service in the Chromebook, and I didn't see it in the launcher. I don't see NWEA maps testing. So where is it? In order for students to get to the testing and lockdown browsers, they're going to have to log out or sign out. So on the previous page, I was sharing with you, you would want to sign out. Students are going to need to sign out. And when they sign out, you're going to notice there's no one signed in here, but on the very bottom of your Chromebook is going to be a little space that will say apps. When students click on the word apps, they're going to notice that apps that are being loaded for that student for testing will be located. So all they'll need to do is click on into the secure testing app or lockdown browser, and it'll take them in and they'll be able to sign in to complete their assessment. So big thing, sign out, and then the Chromebook will have the different space for students to securely access their testing browser or lockdown browser, and they're not going to be able to go anywhere else. They're just going to stay there. They won't be logged into their computer. Moving on. Back over here in our system tray, a little bit of a review here. We do have a screen capture feature. And so if students were to click on screen capture, again, they have the option of screen recording or taking a picture of the screen. The more I've used this with students, they're trying to find the shortcut. So as I mentioned before, one of those apps in the launcher is keyboard shortcuts. So a class and I looked it up and we found out that it's Control Shift and this icon here. This icon here is, I believe, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 6th icon on the Chromebook keyboard. But if you press these 3 buttons together, it's the shortcut for screen capture, or you can click on the system tray and do that in order to get a screen capture. Give me a moment here. Sorry, I didn't mean for those to play. Of course, I created this to play for students. There we go. Okay, so the Chromebook, the Google Play Store, I'm going to share this instead of playing the video for you. But on the Chromebook, students do not have self-service. So there's 2 different places that they'll go in order to find things. It's going to really depend on the situation. And so what we found through our exploration is the Google Play Store is where students will go to install applications like Minecraft, to install applications like Scratch Junior. Let me see if I can show you what's in there. No, and I'll go full screen. I'm worried it's going to start playing for you. We'll give it a shot. It might. It does. Okay, let me zoom in here. So in the Chrome store, it should look somewhat like this. There probably are a couple new apps that have been installed, but you're going to see if you're a Lego Spike Prime, like if you're a robotics teacher, you're going to see Spike Prime in there, Translator, Minecraft, Education, and Scratch Junior, among some other Google applications that your students can use. We also have, there we go, the Chrome Web Store as well. So when they click on the launcher, the Chrome Web Store will be there. When you're in this space, you're going to notice that there is a tab that says El Paso Independent School District. And here's where you're going to find things like the GeoGebra graphing calculator. You're going to find other items like OneNote in there. And so these items can be, these items can be installed. And I believe those would be more of our extensions. Okay, and so if you do click on extensions in the store, then you'll also see any other extensions that may be available as well. And that's pretty much all you need to know as far as where things would be. Here we go. And we can pin any of those extensions that you would like to add to your browser. So what you need to know for students that want to install applications, we want to first look in the Google Play Store, right? If we don't find an item there, we might want to check out the Chrome store, and it might be an extension. The third thing that you want to know, and I know teachers have asked me before, well, how will my students get to, and ClassLink is in here, it might be a bad example, ClassLink, because we're used to using the iPad and installing a specific app. For anything that is browser-based, they're just going to type in the address, and then that will help them navigate to that website. So that's going to be an important piece to take note of, okay? If you're looking for accessibility features, those accessibility features are also going to be in the system tray. And so in the system tray, sorry guys, I have a teacher knocking at the door and I don't want to ignore them. But Julie, can I hand over to you to just talk about what's in accessibility? I will literally be 2 seconds because it's what happens when you're teaching. All right, they're gone. All right, never mind. Okay. So in the system tray, when you click on accessibility, this is where you're going to find your text to speech, speech to text, being able to Zoom, and a lot of those different features that our students might be asking for or needing while they're learning. Okay. If you're looking for adding accents because you're teaching dual language, you're going to want to go to the settings. So that's in the system tray. So down here on the bottom in the system tray, you're going to want to make sure that you go to settings And then you're going to see a little space called devices. I'm going to see if I can show you here in this video. Device. And then from device, you're going to want to click on the word keyboard. So I'm going to scroll just a little bit to show you where keyboard is. Keyboard. And when you click on keyboard, there is a way to go ahead and turn on your accents, and that's right here. Show accent marks and special characters. And so when you toggle that on, you should be able to use the Chromebook the way that you would use your MacBook, and that's by holding down a key that you need an accent for. And the first time I did this, it was really awkward. Let's see if it's in this video. I'm pretty sure it is. The accent was on the top of my screen and I had to find it. And then afterwards, I was able to drag it down and it appeared. So if it shows up, look in the top corner up here on the left-hand side. So the very first time I was trying to add my Enya, I struggled because I knew it was supposed to appear on my screen, and this is where it appeared in the very, very top left. And then I could click on it and bring it in. It is draggable, and so eventually I started using it. It wasn't always here in the top corner, but that's definitely going to throw you off the very first time you turn that on, and then you begin using your accents. Okay. All right. Everything else you do with your students, again, they can navigate into Schoology, they can still turn on their camera, access their camera, utilize their camera. But what they want to know is when they are ready to sign out, there is a very red noticeable sign out button on their Chromebook. And again, as I mentioned previously, there's the sign out and then there's that shut down button where students can actually shut down. I do recommend shutting down to save the life and the battery of the device. But again, as students are going from class to class, closing the screen of their Chromebook in laptop mode, definitely not tablet mode, that'll scratch the screen. In laptop mode should be the safe thing to do. Just close it and then open it up when they get to their next class. And that pretty much, I believe, is the end of just our basics for the Chromebook. If there are any other questions, I could definitely try to join our session from my Chromebook to show you around by sharing the screen there. I'm going to go back to the first screen if you do want to grab that QR code. And also, if we need to add anything to the chat, we definitely can. Jesus, I did tell them that I was going to ask you once you joined in if you would drop the link for Chromebook 101 as well. And that's where a lot of our other resources are. I think when we first rolled out Chromebooks, I felt a little nervous, like, oh my gosh, how are we going to do everything? And I think the big thing that you want to remember is that anything that you can do on your MacBook in your Chrome browser, if you're hopping into Schoology in your Chrome browser, your students on their Chromebook can do the same. Your students have access to a camera. One thing that I didn't show you about the camera that I absolutely love is that when students launch the camera, they have the option of using photo, video, so they can record. If this were a face-to-face session, I would make you do it. But the third thing that our MacBook doesn't have that the Chromebook has is a feature that says scan. So inside of that camera, when students click that button, scan, they can scan a document, much like a mobile phone, but they can also scan a QR code. And so that's a neat little thing to check out with your students, especially if you do like using QR codes in station or QR code exit tickets. Students are able to definitely do that from their MacBook in their camera app by pressing scan, and then they can scan items. All right. Let me grab the link for this as well so that I can drop the link if you're not a QR code person. So I can put in our chat too.
So I've given them the link to our Chromebook course and our catalog of courses. I do have your presentation in there, but if you've updated that, I'll grab that from you, later on so I can upload the new presentation with the images of the Dell laptop that you have added to that, especially the the buttons on the side, I think, is the biggest difference. And then the camera on the keyboard, which is just a little off center, but everything else is pretty much the same, right?
Yeah. And in this presentation does have pictures of the Chromebook. I did add the Dell Chromebook in there as well. But yeah, the only major difference is just the location of buttons and the location of the camera. But I think it's pretty self-explanatory. If you pick up a Chromebook and you look on the side, we're used to what a charging button looks like, or where we would plug a headphone jack into. So just take a minute and look, and you'll be able to, you know, see and tell. Like, there's my power button for the old Chromebook, and I'm not sure if the new Chromebook has a light on it, but you know, it's just there.
It
on
actually
the sides,
does.
right
above the power button, there's a little slit that's a light, little light. It's a light. So yeah, when you press the power, you'll see a little slit at the top, kind of like the old school Windows laptops that had the little light slit. That's what this has now. It doesn't have a circle light like we're used to.
Yeah. And then the buttons are just a little bit different, but again, those graphics are in on that presentation that I shared. And so I think it's, you know, it's nice to kind of explore that with students if they don't know. Like I said, the little buttons that look like gears, let me see if they come through here. They're actually to brighten and dim the screen. So if you need to know where brighten and dim are, right over here, but they look like gears to me. So I'm used to it looking like a sun or, you know, moon. This other button next to the camera, let's see if I can reach it right here, pointing to it, is a full screen button. So that's a really nice button when students are working and trying to create, but maybe a lot of space is being taken up. So if I press that full screen button, let's see if it'll work for me. It'll go into full screen mode and take away, you know, all of the extra clutter that's there on the device. So the Chromebook has some neat features, but definitely I feel like students are going to be able to accomplish what they need to accomplish as far as in their Schoology. We're promoting Canva EDU for students to create videos. And so we'll be sharing some more things during our tech tip webinars for sure, so that your students can be successful using their Chromebooks this school year. All right, so I think that's pretty much all that I have for you. And I just want to thank you guys for joining us. And again, I'll remain back here if you do have any questions. And of course, we'll take any tips if there's anything else that you feel like you need to know. And Julie has dropped in the sign-in sheet and attendance if you want to take a moment and fill that out for us. And like I said, thank you so much for joining us today.